Group 3, Responsive Web Design. What is responsive web design and what specifically does it mean? Responsive design is an approach to web page creation that makes use of flexible layouts, flexible images, and cascading style sheet media queries. The goal of responsive design is to build web pages that detect the visitor's screen size and orientation and change the layout accordingly. As the user switches from their laptop to iPad, the website should automatically switch to accommodate for resolution, image size, and scripting abilities. In other words, the website should have the technology to automatically respond to the user's preferences. This would eliminate the need for a different design and development phase for each new gadget on the market. Who was the first company to practice it? The first site to feature a layout that adapts to browser viewport width was audio.com, launched in late 2001. The term responsive web design was first coined by Ethan Morcott in May 2010 article on A List Apart. He explains that responsive web design is not one concept, but actually accumulation of multiple techniques to adjust desktop websites for an optimized mobile experience. What were the results and overall impressions with users/public? Because responsive design relies on shuffling elements around the page, design and development need to work closely together to ensure a usable experience across devices. Responsive design often turns into solving a puzzle, how to recognize elements on a larger pages to fit skinnier, longer pages, or vice versa. However, ensuring the elements fit within a page is not enough. For responsive design to be successful, the design must also be usable at all resolutions and sizes. When elements move around the page, the user experience can be completely different from one view of the site to the next. It is important that design and development teams work together not to just determine how the content should be shuffled around, but to also see what the end results of the shift looks like and how it affects the user's experience.
Responsive web design requires that a website or media platform be accessible from any device. Websites such as Google are optimized to be able to run a mobile-friendly version of their page on iPhones and Androids through their URL and app. A website such as Gwinnett Tech's MyLabs Plus, however, leaves much to be seen as it relies on pop-ups and even has a lack of any support at all for iOS systems. In fact, in some places, it's not even really accessible on a Mac. On Google's mobile version, you'll find that all the features of the desktop version are there except that all the applications such as Docs and Slides require the phone to download the actual app themselves. MyLabs Plus, however, has no mobile app version available, and to make matters worse, my iPhone 7 can only display half of the web page as it doesn't allow me to scroll to the other side, since that other side is actually just completely gone. So, websites with responsive web design are websites such as Google, Amazon, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Those are websites with good web design. Websites with okay web design would be websites such as Blackboard, surprisingly, as Blackboard actually has a decent optimization for mobile devices. However, it's not the best. There are some issues every now and then, but for the most part, it's definitely much more responsive than something such as MyLabs Plus. Now, websites with bad web design would be websites such as MyLabs Plus, as we discussed. Pearson, as well, as Pearson doesn't allow me at all to really do any work or access any of my textbook information. It's just really, really limited as far as what I can do on my phone. In fact, it doesn't really allow me to do anything whatsoever. Now, BandLab, which actually does have an app version, BandLab doesn't really offer the best responsive web design either. As yes, there's an app version, yes, it works. However, their design behind the application was actually quite poor. It's very buggy, and the worst part is this is a very popular app that a lot of people who want to do music and such actually use. So when people open this app and it's hard for them to record or something goes out, it makes the whole process much, much worse.
It stinks. One thing to take in consideration is the majority of the internet users today access the web via mobile devices like smartphones or tablets. So right now, consumers are constantly using the web on their mobile devices, regardless of the location, whether at home, in the car, or actually in the store. So some of the benefits of having a nice RWD website is, again, you get that 24-hour a day, 7 days a week exposure, the easy accessible by your consumer. You also have that branding and also to the identity to your business that you can create and separate yourself from your competitor. So these are some of the benefits here listed on the screen that you should take into consideration regarding RWD development. We're talking about cost. Again, this is just some examples of what some costs may be, but asking how much does a responsive web design cost, you're not going to get a straight cut and dry definitive type answer. It's like, in real estate buying a house. How much does a house cost? Well, it depends on how many bedrooms, location. Do you have a basement? Do you have a yard? Do you have a pool? Do you live near a lake? All those things can factor and adjust the pricing from that standpoint. The same thing goes for a website. Responsive web design does typically cost more, but again, you're not building a static, succinct website, and again, you're enabling your functionality to all the different devices out there. So again, these are just some of the typical costs to expect. Obviously, the more commercial type development size of a website, the higher it will get, but again, this will give you an estimate what to look for. In terms of factors to developing your website, you need to understand that this is really your audience first experience a lot of times. So it is a smart move in any business to get to the point where you're developing towards mobile and the mobile platform. This is regardless if you're a brick and mortar location or you conduct e-commerce. It's very vital to have a mobile friendly website. And again, things to consider: are you going to have complicated designing? Are you going to have chat services? Are you going to have e-commerce capability? Also too, the maintenance costs of the domain registration, hosting fees, and then also the design. Are you going to be customized, or are you going with a design template from a designer? So these are some of the things to consider as you start looking at the cost.
To summarize, responsive web design, coined by Ethan Morset in May 2010, adapts based on screen layout and is optimized for specific devices. Such devices could be laptops, phones, tablets, and desktops. Some examples of websites that use responsive web design are Google, Amazon, YouTube, and Instagram, and the cost could vary between $100,000 and $25,000.
And that's all, folks.